Well, whoop-de-doo, I didn't have my headphones in. So this is BL Blankenship. I'm going to try and make this quick, smooth, and easy because I already ran through it. Ladies and gentlemen, I just made what may possibly have been, I can say it, and there's no evidence to the contrary, one of the greatest rants about creating comic books and all the type of things that I'm going to talk about doing. Um, because it didn't record and now I'm doing it again. Okay. So anyway, last year was my first year in comics, writing comics, creating comics. Prior to that, I was writing literature. I have 30 books that have been published, predominantly fiction, Western horror, and all of that. Western horror is a subset of the subgenre um, Wild West or Weird West, which is, of course, based off of Western. So, yeah, I've written extreme horror, splatter Western, Southern Gothic, nonfiction, yada, yada. Prior to that, I was writing songs for many, many, many years, the age of 18, technically, 1999, if that helps you. And before that, even as a teenager, as a child, I was writing poetry. I am a poet and I do know it. So, yeah, anyway, my comics that came out last year, there were five, four of which were independent, and the three of the four that are still around now because they're not under trademark like Zorro, were all humor. Kids comic Cat and Mouse number one, a satire comic Larry Bogus Bowled Over, and a parody comic Propaganda Comics number one, all of which are available on Amazon, Books a Million, Barnes and Noble, print on demand type of stuff. Published through Ingram Spark, by the way. On and on and on. Me trying to get my foot in the door. So if you like comics for the point of reading comics, go ahead and get those. If you have children that you're trying to get into comics, Cat and Mouse number one would be a fantastic comic to do that. My niece loves it. I've heard a lot of good stuff from that. It was super nice for Gail Simone to blurb and say that she enjoyed it. It goes down easy, everybody. All of the humor stuff is lighthearted, even when it's more on the Mad Magazine kind of level of propaganda comics, which is, yeah. Anyway, so that wrote a superhero thing, Super Black, Discovery number one. That is through I Shook Comics, which I was hired on to write. You can't get the Zorro one anymore. And on the back of that, it was a flip book. It was Phuket Mama number one. Because I like a lot of Asian cinema and everything that actually tied in with my like Western horror stuff. But that's neither here nor there. Okay, so I've got a bunch of books that are being worked on to come out later this year. Again, not the point. I wrote some stuff for a comic book jam, takes place in the Batman universe. How can you do that? Because I wouldn't be making any money off of it, and that's when it's okay to do. Can you draw Scooby-Doo all day long? You can put it up online all day long. You can paint it on the side of your vehicle all day long. You cannot make money off of that stuff because you don't own the copyright and all that. Is there a way around that? Yeah, you can pay and license it out. So, if you just want to do something for publicity reasons, if you wanted to print like a gajillion comics of Scooby-Doo and give them away for free, you could. But you cannot do it in any kind of way where you're making money. By making money, I mean even breaking even, where someone is giving you something in exchange for it. You can't do it. Okay. So I wrote this Bat Country Zero. Several people had sent me their artwork for it, like two. Uh, it was really, really good. People loved that. And I heard recently that ChatGPT has become so advanced, and I know that people hate AI art, and don't get offended at me here. Because I mean, I don't like bat campaigns or whatever that like they're an AI art thing or whatnot. But I'm like for the novelty of seeing what this thing could do for publicity like reasons, let me see what it can do. ChatGPT dropped the ball crazy, stupid hard on purpose. So when it looked at my script, it said that you're not allowed to have someone because they're triggering, holding a knife, even if it's Victor Zaz, on someone, threatening a minor, which goes on several times in the story, killing a child. on camera by drowning them in a bathtub. By the way, the Joker and all's involved in it, and the line that the character uses, because it is absolute perfect writing for the Joker, is now you see him, now you don't, and kills the little boy in the bubble bath in front of his daddy by holding his head under the water. That is who the Joker is. It's actually the Joker's sidekick that wants to become the Joker. Um, a lot to that. But anyway, so all of these things, even having someone in Arkham Asylum in a straitjacket, it absolutely will not do it. ChatGPT dropped the ball. Now, that's nuts. I've written extreme horror, and people that don't know what extreme horror is, by definition, it's extreme. If you were to say like Serbian film and Human Centipede and the French film Martyrs and American, is it Mary, that the Saska sisters made, and stuff like that. I've seen all of those, by the way. Not the Human Centipede though. I hadn't watched that. I just know of them. But yeah, what is it? A guy like kills a pregnant woman with a hammer in the second one. Anyway, all of that stuff and plenty of like westerns, because there's people that are like oblivious to westerns. I like Brimstone. Brimstone's like the Dakota Fanning is amazing in that. Everybody that's in that is amazing. You know, the Nightingale's good. The Keeping Room isn't really extreme. It's psychological. Um, yeah, there's some really great violent westerns. Django Unchained is of course violent. Um, I like all that type of stuff. I would be like the ideal person, even more ideal if I was like super famous. But to write like a Jonah Hex type thing, because I do have a following there. But yeah, I like all that type of stuff. I can sit around and write things like Seven and Dexter and all that. I used to be all about like criminology and whatnot. I have a degree in private investigation. I graduated high school early because but yeah, I wanted to do all the criminal science stuff, and then I stepped back from that because of ministry type things, and went into full evangelism pretty early. Pastored my first church at 20 years old and all that. So I've had a very different life. Um, ChatGPT can't do it, y'all. Of course, the point of doing any of that thing, lest you would ask, are you taking artist jobs? Calm down. It would be for a spectacle. As somebody that's worked in music, like I've worked in music, I know that I could write the most brilliant song that has ever been penned in the history of the world, right? And I could record it like as cheaply as human possible. Like, go out into the boonies and the guy's like, I can record that for $10 or whatever, or free, or for an apple pie or whatever. And it sounds like you're in a can. Um, and somebody would look down on that and think that song's really not that good. When you look at music and when you look at like the Beatles, for example, and there were several Beatles songs that were quite good, but they had some stuff that was pure unadulterated garbage, but the production quality was so high. Their harmonies were so gorgeous and tight. The music was so good. I mean, the vocals, all that stuff, even though lyrically it was pure trash, that it made it into a good song. If you were to sit here right now, anyone in the universe with an IQ that's would even substantiate them having an opinion about anything, and you laid out the words to like a Nirvana song, just the words to a Nirvana song, and not the way that it magically comes out, right? And you said, "Hey, I got this song," they'd be like, "This is pure trash." I mean, read like Smells Like Teen Spirit. It's like, how is this a song that even did, if you just looked at the words, that even did anything, right? It's crap. But it wasn't about that. It probably helped that you couldn't even understand the lyrics, in fact. But it wasn't about that. It was about the presentation of the song. If they didn't have a word in the song, the music was what sold the song. Otherwise, all you heard was to the point that Weird Al Yankovic made a song mocking the fact that you couldn't even understand a single one of the lyrics that they were singing, and that was what Nirvana was notable for, the way their music sounded. it was the musical composition that sold their songs. So like the opposite of Bob Dylan, even though his musical composition is great, but he would write things and people would think that's catchy and that's cool and all that. And I like Bob Dylan, by the way. And he comes off very genuine and all in the way that he comes up. And he's not the best vocalist, but there's vocalists that sing pure garbage. And I don't want to hear somebody get up and sing the phone book just because they can sing. I want to hear them sing something that's worth singing, right? So the presentation matters. So now something like that would be great, just to if it could have did it, would have, should have, should have, whatever. Just to be like, hey, everybody, look at this, and then people could ooh and ah and talk about how great they thought the storytelling was, and all that, and you just pray to God that somebody didn't have an abnormal amount of fingers on their on their hand or whatever. But yeah. I work with other people. I like to work with other people. I like to help other people and everything. It is what it is. I'm just talking about like free, easy, picky stuff, and I was just curious. I'm like, I wonder what this can do. Nothing that I write that I think is like, that's gritty and worth writing, because you have all that killing and shooting and stabbing and drowning and and whatever in it. I could make DC Comics so much crazy, stupid money, but they've got to push the button. They've got to do that. And honestly, I mean, I'm kind of one of these people that I expect people like not to. I kind of expect people to drop the ball and not to, because that's the way of things. I think that you get in because of who you know. I don't think that it has to do with like competence or whatever always, even though there's some very competent people that are in positions that are very good. There's some very good writers and everything in that. I really love Dan Jurgens' um Batman White Knight. I have said numerous times at any awards that do not have Batman First Night in it. Also Wesley Dodd Sandman, and I rep for DC like a lot because I like them. I want to see them rise, and the stuff that I read of theirs, it's not everything. I pick up and I read what I want to read from like any place, and I'll pick up things from more obscure, places or whatever. It's just like, does it work for me? Like the pitch that they're selling, does it like sell to me? I just read Buried Long, Long Ago, by the way, by Mad Cave. The people that made it said it took them 5 years to get that comic, for somebody to come out and to do that, and wished me the best of luck when it comes to pitching. I'm not really going to wait a long time. That's just it. I prefer imperfect action to perfect inaction. There was this dude that got up at this gospel concert, and he said that I had this demo tape for this song. It's called Funeral Clothes, by the way. Had this, it was the Freeman. This is the group. This demo tape that Larry Petrie wrote for this song, right? And we had it sitting in the drawer for years. As a songwriter, that makes me want to systematically beat somebody's teeth down their throat, that somebody thought enough of them that they sent them the song and said, I wrote this because I can hear your group doing it. And they let it sit in a drawer and rot for years. And then they listen to it and say, this is brilliant. We need to do this. You know what? You should have got your butt in gear and you should have done it the second that you did it. And if it was Dottie Rambo, biggest name ever in Southern gospel music songwriters, by the way, if it was Dottie Rambo and if she walked into the studio when you were recording, and I know this because she did walk into the studio when certain groups were recording, and handed them a piece of paper and said, you're going to do this song on this album, they would do it because it was Dottie Rambo. Didn't have that respect for Larry Petrie, fantastic songwriter. Didn't have the respect for something that he did to even sit down and listen to it, right? So, it is what it is. Whatever happens will happen. I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not afraid of closed doors. None of that bothers me. When I watch these YouTube videos about like a Sigma male, entirely too many of those qualities are like me, except that I'm not independent and I do like to be validated And then I've got like some Zeta male things. Like I prefer to be in the company of women. I'm like the straightest guy in the world, if that makes any sense. But I have a younger sister, and we were super close, and I would like sit at the girls' table when we were like in really like little elementary school things until I kind of got kicked to the curb because I'm like, do you like her because she likes you? And yeah, what happens at the girls' table stays at the girls' table. You don't do any of that garbage. All right. Anyway, BL Blankenship here, just letting you know that ChatGPT, how it went down, what happened. That's what's happening in the world of AI, which has never really been my thing, but I hate anything new. Um, I I think that we ought to like grind our own grits from like our own corn mill or corn. You know what I'm talking about, and like all that, and like make everything from scratch because it is like crazy, stupid better when you do, but it's a hassle, and people would rather have easy than good.